Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm Todd Nesloney. I'm your host. I'm an elementary principal in Texas, and my goal is every week to bring you people who inspire, challenge, or encourage me in one way or another that I've found online, and I just love their stories, and I've wanted to bring them to amplify their voices and allow you to catch a glimpse of their story, and maybe it'll inspire you as well. I'm thrilled this week to bring my special guest, Mike McGowen. Mike, thanks for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Of course. Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me. So my name is Mike McGowen. I am a second grade teacher in New Jersey. I teach second grade by day. I teach an introduction writing course at the local community college. This is my third year teaching. I went to Rutgers University. I really loved it there. It's like Rutgers pride. And I just am really interested in getting students engaged and meaningful engagement in the classroom to make learning authentic. And that's kind of my piece.
Awesome. So, how long, you said you've been teaching 3 years.
Yes.
So did you always want to be a teacher?
I did. I wanted to be a teacher. Then I kind of fell out of it and thought, I'll go get a career in the FBI. Clearly that was not what was happening. And then I kind of, in high school, I was in a Spanish 5 class, and the only way that it could work for me to take Spanish 5 was if it was also included in a Spanish 2 class. So part of the class was like teaching and tutoring in Spanish 2. So that kind of got me back engaged into really wanting to teach, and it also got me to think that I don't want to be a high school teacher. That's not really where I belong. I belong far away from like young adults every day. So then I went to school for my undergrad was in Spanish and linguistics, and then my master's degree is in special ed and elementary ed, and that's really where I kind of belong. So I guess in short, yes, I've always wanted to be a teacher, but there was some discovery in what I wanted to do.
So obviously you're multilingual. So do you speak English and Spanish? Anything else?
No, I speak English fluently, and I'm fairly fluent in Spanish. Took an Italian course once, and I can only say ciao, come ci chiami, hi, what's your name? That's all I remember from the class.
That's hilarious. So what was kind of that vibe that told you that you were more meant for elementary than secondary?
I think just the age group. I really I enjoy working with young children, and I think that's really where I find like I'm most interested in and what I am best at, like teaching young kids and getting them inspired to learn and really want to learn, and I think that's really where I belong.
So what was school like for you growing up?
I was very fortunate in growing up in school. I was very I grew up in a very small town with a very small school. So I grew up with 22 kids in my grade.
Oh, wow.
Through 8th grade, yeah, it was very small. And so I was very close with my teachers, and I still to this day still connect with a lot of them, through Facebook and through social media. So I was close with them. And I really wanted to be a teacher when I was younger in that sense, just because I enjoyed going to school and I enjoyed the different classes that the different teachers I had. So I was very fortunate in that sense. And then I went to a larger high school, which was nice. And then Rutgers, of course, is just gigantic. So,
yeah.
So
you said you teach second grade. Have you done second grade all 3 years?
No. So I student taught, then I taught 6th grade for a bit, which was 6th grade social studies, which was fun for that little bit of time. And then I don't want to go back to middle school. So I praise middle school teachers with everything because it's an area I could never spend my entire career doing.
Right.
And then I started at this school now, and this is my 2nd year teaching second grade.
So what do you think has been the biggest lesson you've learned so far in teaching?
Definitely to pick and choose your battles, because I think you want to really get the students to learn, and you want them to be engaged in what they're learning. And sometimes when you have students with behavior, with various behaviors, you need to really pick and choose and decide, what do I want them to learn and how do I get them to that goal? And sometimes that means, you're not going to get everything you want done in that lesson block, but you're going to get them to the goal because you know them and you've built a relationship with them to, get that done.
I love that. So, you're really interested in and do a lot of work with some brain research too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So over the summer, my district sent me to this professional development on resiliency. So it looks at children, all children really, but it focuses in on children with adverse childhood experiences. So that might be, they move around a lot. They have a single family home. Some of them could have parents that are in jail, or they might not have a stable home environment. So you look at all of those factors that the child then comes to school with. And you think, well, what are they really in school for? Are they in school, to learn, or are they in school really to be loved, or just to have that connection with someone? And then also, as our job as educators is, you do have to teach them. There's content that they have to learn while they're there. So what the workshop really taught me in the professional development that I've carried on is to get the children from, their brain stem, which is, the actual stem of your brain, and then into their frontal lobe. And there are strategies. It's a framework I've learned that gets them, here. And when you come from backgrounds that, are not as stable, that's really where the learning happens. And some strategies to use in the classroom or even in like the entire school to get them ready to learn.
So what's a strategy that you've seen be really successful, or one that you really enjoy employing?
So there are two that I really do enjoy, like I use fairly regularly. The first is just creating a beat with the class. And none of these strategies should take longer than 1.5 minutes as a whole group. So we create various beats throughout the day. So I usually do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And it could be as simple as a clap, clap, tap the table. And then you just repeat that as a group a couple times. And that unity within the class, and also just the rhythm that you're doing, kind of gets them where they need to be in the brain. Another is if you make an OK sign and a peace sign with 2 hands, and then you flip them. So you go back and forth. And if you do that, you might think you're going to like flip somebody off to start. But then the more you practice it, the more you kind of transfer. And
it's not as easy as it sounds, by the way. For those of you that may be listening or watching, it's not as easy as it sounds. It reminds me of that tap your head and pat your back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But doing something like this really gets it focuses you. It's called a focus attention practice. And it brings you, it calms you down. So this one would be more so to calm you down. The beat would be more so to bring you up. And whatever you need to do with your students. So that's one. Another is various just breathing techniques to kind of get you ready to go. So one is like you take a deep breath and then you do horse lips out. And for some kids, it might be silly, and you might have a upper elementary school student who's not going to want to do it. But if you buy into it, then the students will eventually buy into it as well. And they really do work. And some pushback that I saw was like, well, are they really, well, what is this? This is not, okay, whatever. And think about how many times do you have a student that you have to stop and say, all right, come on, we're focusing here. All right, come on, we're doing this. You redirect them. But this is something that you can do to avoid all the constant redirection. And, just a couple strategies that have worked.
So what have you seen is the biggest improvement or biggest change since implementing those?
It's definitely been having the students, like having to redirect and manage those kind of little behaviors throughout the lesson. It really does promote that engagement for a 20-minute, mini lesson or however long, whatever it is you're teaching. And it brings the class together. It does kind of create that sense of community, like I belong here. And when you teach them the science behind it, you teach them, where their brainstem is, what their amygdala is, which is what you're kind of resetting, and then, where they need to be. That whole kind of science behind it, the younger kids, my second graders understand it. And it's really interesting to see, like, they're like, oh, I'm not focused right now. And like, I'll see some of them do this to kind of get themselves where they need to be. Yeah. And they regulate themselves, which is a big part, that you need to know how to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really been beneficial.
It sounds, and what I love about the idea that you're sharing is it's something so simple. It's
right.
Not anything that's super complicated for the teacher to understand or explain, or for the kids to understand or explain. But I think you're totally right with, we do those little callbacks and things too, a lot that we've seen online or from my friends or from other teachers I know. And we've seen at my campus just the dramatic change that is. And as long as you don't let it get crazy and out of control, like you said, they need to be quick.
Right.
Or else it's just something that's wasting time. But it really does make a difference. And when you've got all that research behind these practices, for me, it's kind of like, why aren't you using it to get their attention? Exactly. What do you see? Do you see pushback from other teachers on campus from doing these kind of things?
I think in my school, it's been very much so like embraced. Right. And I've seen a lot of staff do it and join in, which is really good. And of course, you're going to find those people that just, they need that extra push to keep going. But for the majority, I think that it's been really beneficial. And we've seen the improvement in behavior, and just that alone is incredible.
Yeah.
And like another one is just, I saw it on Instagram. I saw someone else post about it. It's the 2x10 strategy. So you pick one student and you give them 2 minutes a day for 10 days, where you talk about anything that's not school related.
I love it.
Build that relationship. And it's that sense of, I deserve to be here. I belong here. Now I have someone that I can connect with.
Right.
And that's really, that's what it's supposed to be. And I mean, none of these ideas are my own. They're all research from someone else. So I just I put them in practice because I'm fortunate.
We work in a field where everything is begged, borrowed, or stolen anyway. So
absolutely.
So what is your favorite part about being a teacher?
I truly am there to work with the children and make sure that they are learning and being successful in whatever it is that they're doing. And I want them, I think that's my takeaway. And what I really enjoy about it is being there for the kids, to give them what they need, give them the resources they need to be successful. And also it's what they can kind of teach me, because part of it is, I can spew out as much as I want, but at 7 or 8 years old, they teach me more every day, which is awesome.
Now, you mentioned Instagram, and I know that you've just recently gotten into that realm of learning from other educators through social media platforms like Instagram. What was your interest or drive in joining that for those professional reasons, and what have you gathered in the couple months that you've been on?
So I started with Twitter, and I was like, I'll just join the teacher Twitter, because that was what our district asked. Like, would you join Twitter? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I joined it, and I was kind of connecting with people there, and then I had followed a bunch of teachers on my personal Instagram just to kind of get ideas. And I was like, you know what? I could probably dabble in this and, get my feet wet, or whatever the expression is. And I did. And I mean, I've blown away with the 1,000 or so followers that I have that are actually interested in me, because I don't think I do anything all that interesting. So I was like, I guess I'll just, I'll share. And that's what that's kind of my thinking on it.
And I find that so funny that we all feel the same way about our social media presence. It's kind of like, well, what am I going to share that's anything better than this stuff already out there? But what I've seen time and time again is it doesn't matter who you are as an educator. When you're out there sharing your heart and sharing your practices, there's always people that haven't heard or seen it the way you're going to say or do it. And so that's why it's always important to have everybody's voices out there to amplify. Now, you also mentioned that even though you are 20-something years old and have only been teaching for 3 years, you also teach a college class, right?
Yes. So I teach at the local community college, Composition 101. So I teach expository writing, basically. And that is one of the biggest shifts that I think I don't even know what got in my head to be like, I'll apply for this. It won't be me. And the next thing you know, I was interviewed and hired. But it has been one of the most interesting shifts in going from 8-year-olds to 18 and above. And a lot of the people in my class are adults, like they're older than I am. And I think it's been such an interesting experience to see what they're doing and where I kind of fit into that. Like, I have content to present, and I have goals that they need to meet, that the college tells me to meet. And I can help them as much as I can, but it's different in the college setting, because if their own drive is not there, I can only do so much. Whereas in the elementary school, it's a totally different ballgame.
Right. Have you been able to take anything that you've been doing in your 2nd grade class and modify it and use it in your college class?
So I've done the brain thing there. Some of them get it. Like, I try to kind of share that interest of mine. So I kind of implement some of that, and then I'll catch myself. And this isn't even a strategy. It's like, I'll go, all right, children of the classroom. And they're like, you're not children. And this is, we're at a college class. Or I'll say something. I'm like, all right, if you agree, do a sign of agree, which I'll do. And they're like, look at me like, what does this fool think he's doing? Like, there's little things that I'll catch myself doing, but it's so different. And I'm sure there are similarities that I could pull more. But because of the nature of the class and it being so one-on-one, like 101 and structured, because there's so many sections offered, it's kind of like I have to present content and then we apply it and then they write in return. So,
do you foresee yourself continuing to do a college class as well as 2nd grade?
So I taught there in the fall, I taught there in the spring, I'm teaching a summer class and a class next fall, all Comp 101. But I'm hoping that, as I kind of continue to grow as an educator, I could eventually teach some sort of education class. But of course, that would involve my own personal growth. But that's kind of the goal for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I just totally lost my train of thought of what I was going to ask with that. But sorry. Anyway, so what do you think is something unexpected that you've learned over your last couple of years?
Something unexpected that I've learned. Huh. That is a good question. What have I... You stumped me. And I'm sure there's many of things that I have learned. I know there is. I don't want to sound like that. I think that something that I've unexpectedly learned is how much you have to rely on colleagues and you need each other. And I think that that was something that I always thought I knew. But then when it came time to doing the work, I could not imagine, at the elementary school, at my career, there I have so many valuable colleagues, within my grade that I rely on every day. And it's for planning purposes, but also just for, everyday life things that are going on. And I don't think that I would be as successful. I know that I would not be where I am now if I did not have that support.
And that reminds me, that was my question. How do you balance having a personal life, being on social media, teaching a college class, teaching second grade? Like, I know people are probably listening or watching and thinking, how in the world do you do all of that and keep your sanity? How do you stay balanced?
I honestly, I don't have an expert answer on that, or like what I do. It is very much so week by week. So some weeks I need to not bring things home. And I really try to do that throughout the week. Like once the work day is over, I'll maybe do 20 more minutes of work, but then I'll limit myself. I'm like, I have to stop because from the school. And then on the college end, I try to only limit the amount of work that I'm doing to certain days. And then I just kind of find in what my interests are. So I'll go to the gym. I'll watch a lot of television when I kind of at night. And on the weekends, it's my time. I maybe will dedicate a little bit of work on Sunday, like an hour. But other than that, it's good for me to go. I can't go Monday to Friday the way I'm supposed to if I don't give myself time on the weekends.
I think that's a great point. So the last question I always love asking is, what is something that you wish more people knew or understood?
That you're never better than anyone else. I think that, if you look at what you do as your craft and how you can contribute, but not as I'm better than someone else. I think that you look at what you have and what you can bring to the table and how that can help someone else, and then how you can learn from someone else as well. I think that's really important.
I think that's great advice. The balance, as well as that you're never better than anybody else. I think that's a great way to end. Mike, I've loved learning from you on social media and stealing books and ideas. And so I'm super excited when you agreed to be a guest on my show. So thank you so much for sharing some of your story tonight.
Thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I enjoy connecting with you on Instagram as well. I've learned a lot from you as well.
Awesome. Well, and I want to thank all of our listeners or viewers as well for checking out another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can watch or listen to any past episodes on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Thank you for joining this week. I hope that this story and this conversation has inspired and encouraged you as well, because you need to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters. Have a great night, everyone.